How's it going, everyone? It's Alex with AC Flips. I'm a full-time six-figure Amazon seller, and in today's video, I have a special guest, Fields of Profit, the man himself. Today, we're going to be going over the "Is This Worth Buying?" another episode in the series, basically where we show products on the screen, play along with the game. You decide if you want to buy this product or not, and then Warner and I will actually go through a couple products, break them down, and let you know if we would purchase this for our Amazon business. So, without further ado, let's jump into that first product. All right, for our first product, we have some Nike shorts. Pause the video, do your analysis, and determine if you would buy this product or not. All right, so we have our first product here, some Nike Youth Park 3 shorts. We can see that it's an 11K rank, 1,500 sales a month estimated with SellerAmp. That's the entire list of variations, so keep that in mind. Based on this current buy box price, $27.99, the max cost $12.17. We are hypothetically finding this for $12, so we're getting a $3.50 profit, almost 30% ROI. Our break even is $23.75, but don't want to make any decisions yet. Let's look at that Keep It chart. All right, so we scroll onto the Keep It chart. We can see that this price is pretty consistently sitting around $30 for most of the last 3 months. If we wanted to go back further, we could. Basically, this price is sitting pretty consistent. The seller count also hasn't done a whole lot of movement. We can see that at one point, we had 16 sellers on the listing. Price was still sitting, right above $30. When we go all the way down to 6 sellers, still sitting right around that $30 mark. So those are the things you want to consider when, looking at price history. When the sellers are up on the listing, what is that price at? When the sellers are down on the listing, what is that price at? If it were to go back to, a high seller count, what price should we expect? What price do we see in the past, and what price should we expect in the future? Like I said, we should be able to sell this at that $30 range in the future, as long as there's not a major sale going and a bunch of people can't go on this listing. If we did go back to the year mark, we can see that even when this listing hits 23 sellers on the listing, we're still $27 to $30 range, right in that range there. So again, we don't see a big drop off to like $20, once the seller count goes up on this listing.
Yeah. So one question I have on this product for you is, do you ever keep in mind return rates on different categories? So like for me, this is shorts. And so a 30% ROI it would be like the bare minimum towards what we're looking for. Do you have anything in mind for that?
Yeah, definitely something you want to keep in mind. Different even within the clothing category. So clothing and shoes do get returned, more than other categories, say grocery. But the like specific clothing types as well, like women's clothing, just by nature gets returned more than men's or even kids. Yeah, so for clothing, that like Warner said, that 30% ROI is kind of the minimum you want to go. If you go any lower, that return rate starts to go negative on you, and you get a couple returns, and then all of a sudden that $3.50 profit is washed away. So definitely something to keep in mind. If we see this consistent price, it might turn into some sort of replen for you, but definitely watch the return rate over time. You can check that data, in your inventory lab, and understand if this product is profitable long term. Should you go and buy more of it, or does the return rates wash away all of the profits? One more check we could do is look at the variations tab to make sure that the size we are looking at is something that's going to sell quite often. We do have the black medium. So you can see it is, if you sort by ratings, ratings are a fairly telling sign of how often something, one of the variations sells on a listing. So we can see that it's 12% of all the ratings or reviews on a listing. It's pretty high. So the variations checks out. So with that being said, this is a product that I would purchase long term.
All right, so next up, we're gonna look at this Clinique product here. Go ahead and pause the screen. Let me know if you would buy this product or not. Yeah, so jumping into the data on this product here, looks like we got a 40,000 BSR. So SellerAmp's telling us it's gonna sell about 200 times a month. So definitely decent volume on that. We're also gonna be looking at about a 43% ROI, picking this item up for $10.70. But before we go ahead and actually buy this product, let's go ahead and jump into the Keep It data down here. And so the first thing I'm noticing on a product like this is that it's pretty stable. For one, that's something you're usually going to be looking for. Yeah, and so jumping into this Keep It here, another thing that I like to see is this little buy box oscillation here. So the buy box is like kind of jumping up and down from like that $22 price point up to like 23. And so just like a little nugget, like a lot of times I'll set my like repricer min to only catch those higher price sales. So in this case, we might, be only making those $23 price sales, or making, a couple extra bucks on that, or I guess one extra buck on that. But that's just one thing that I like to see on that. Another thing about that Keepa pattern there is usually you're not going to see that on an item that's not selling at least a little bit. Otherwise, it wouldn't be, sharing sales between different sellers like that. Zooming out a little bit even further here, I want to see if like this price is consistent long term. So it looks like recently, like this $21 price point that you get like right there might be like our worst case scenario over the last few months. So 35% ROI is your worst case scenario. It's a pretty decent product there. Zooming out into the past, I'll also try to see, what happened last time there were this number of sellers. In this case, we're only at about 12 sellers. Every time in the past that we've had 12 sellers, it seems like it's like $26 there. So it seems like a relatively low number of sellers right now as well. So it seems like, a little bit less competition, super stable. Keep a chart here. So I would definitely be picking this one up.
Hey, Warner, can you explain the IP alert? Looks like there might be some alert. Does the data tell you otherwise?
Yeah, so seller amp over here, usually our IP alerts are very overly cautious. We don't want, new sellers coming in and getting IP complaints and stuff. Usually, like personally, I'm just jumping in and looking at the data down here on the new seller graph. And so particularly, I'm looking for anywhere, let's say all of a sudden there's 25 sellers, and then, the next second there's only 10. The sellers fell off a cliff. That could be like Clinique is sending out IP complaints, kicking people off the listing. In this case, anytime you see that decline in sellers, it seems like it's just very natural, like one seller at a time, maybe a couple sellers, but nothing that really leads me to believe that Clinique is coming in here and kicking people off the listing in bulk. Another thing you can look at just to validate those sales even more is the review count down here on the bottom chart. In this case, it doesn't look like it has variations or anything like that, but I also like to check that review count. You got to imagine it's a very small percentage of people who are actually leaving reviews on this item. So the fact that it went from 526 all the way to 535 means that, probably a couple hundred people at least bought that item in between that time frame there.
All right, for this third product, we have a MAC makeup product. Pause the video, analyze the data, and determine if you would purchase this product or not. All right, so let's take a look at the seller amp data to start. We can see a decent rank, 26K BSR, sells over 500 times a month. It's not a variation listing, so all this one product gets those sales. We're profitable at buying, hypothetically at $12.50. Price currently selling at $25.91. So $4 profit, 32% ROI. A little bit of room for break even. Let's take a look at the Keep It chart before we make any split decisions. All right, so one thing that alarmed me right away is this increasing seller count, right? We haven't really seen the sellers level out or decrease since, early January. As we can see, when the seller count was low, this price was up above $30. So we probably would have been selling this really profitably at our current buy cost. Currently, we can see that the price has slowly been declining over time as the sellers increase. So this $26 buy box price might keep going down as the seller count continues to increase. So over time, we should expect that this price should go down.
Is there ever a time that you might buy an item like that where the sellers are increasing pretty quickly?
Unless it's a product that moves really quickly and there is a ton of ROI in the product, so you do have room for that to go down and still be profitable. I'm usually either waiting out those products or, just buying a test buy to see what happens. If you do buy a test buy and the price does tank, that's better than buying, say, 50 of these, right? If you do the analysis and it tells you that you could probably sell 50 of these a month, maybe this is a product where you want to do a test buy and only buy 5 or 10 of these, because if you do get burned or if the price does tank, now you're only losing $1 or $2 on 5 of these instead of 50. Just to do one more check, we can go all the way back to a year point and see, the seller count is increasing. We did see a seller count of almost 60 people in the past on this product. Amazon was on the listing, but we can see that the buy box was to third-party sellers at $23. If we type $23 into our sale price, we can see now our criteria doesn't match. Only 12% ROI, getting close to that break-even price. So this is a product that I would not purchase long-term.
Next up, we're going to go ahead and look at this Nike shoe here. Go ahead and pause the video. Let me know if you guys would buy this product or not. All right, jumping into the seller amp on this product over here. Looks like it's a 7K bestseller rank, so it's pretty decent in shoes. Usually I'm looking for like sub 50K. Estimated sales over 2,000, split between all variations. So keep that in mind as you're looking at this listing here. And overall, it looks like we're going to be getting us at about a 35% ROI, which can be decent. Usually I'm looking for a little bit more in shoes, but with an item like this that could be selling really quick, maybe you can make a concession, that kind of thing. But first we got to jump down into the Keepa and see if this is the type of item we would want to maybe take that risk on. And so jumping down here, immediately I'm just going to simplify this as well. We can see the buy box over time Kind of, if you draw an imaginary line, over the last couple months, it probably really belongs somewhere in the 95 range. You can also just use the average 90-day price over here, punch that in. And especially in shoes, if you're getting 11% ROI on average, it's not fantastic. If you do want to jump into an item like this, maybe you could make a couple sales at 118 bucks, but we need to make sure that that's not too risky in the long term. So you can see over the last little bit, that's clearly the last Nike sale there where a ton of other people bought it. So let's say, if you were to be buying this item on the same sale, that's something you'll see a lot where, this exact same sale happened last time. The price was almost very similar, right? So if you were sourcing this from the Nike sale going on right now, it might be something to think about that last time that sale happened, it was very clear that a lot of people jumped on. Another thing you could think about zooming back into the past is if this, that $118 price is realistic long term. In this case, it could stay around, it could not. So in my opinion, I wouldn't really take the gamble on something like this. That's, at best case, we're at 35% ROI in shoes. Our worst case is probably somewhere around, the $80 price point. Our absolute worst would be like that 75. And so at an $80 price point, we're definitely not interested in losing money every time we sell a unit. The other thing you could check on these shoes here, if there's like crazy volume, that kind of thing, where you might be able to make those sales, you can grab the ASIN from up there. And I'll just filter it down here in the variations. So I can see right away that that's another reason that I might avoid this item. Recently, it looks like the rating count has been a little bit flatlining, which means that there's less sales. So there's going to be that supply and demand is going to kick in a little bit, and the price might kind of go down in the short term.
So Warner, is there you see this graph a lot, right, where the seller count goes way down to a low number, and then the buy box price does creep up? Are there instances, maybe if you didn't find it on a sale, where you would maybe do a test buy or even go a little bit deeper on a product like this?
For sure. Honestly, like if you ever see like this keep it pattern, I honestly love this keep it pattern. We kind of saw like a more tame version of it on that last product that I broke down. I'm a big fan of that, where you go and you set your min at, in this case, maybe 115 bucks. On an item like this, I wouldn't take that gamble because it has those outside, those influences of, this product might have been easy to find. It's a shoe, so we're going to run into returns. On the flip side, if you're looking at, I don't know, a grocery product that's doing the same thing, and you're not going to get returns, and your worst case scenario, you break even. Your best case, you make 50%. I might take a gamble on that, where there's less outside influences. Really comes down to me, like how likely is there to be extra overhead in the form of returns, and how likely is it that other people found that same item? So in this case, I probably wouldn't take that gamble. Some of the other times I probably would.
All right, so that was our breakdown of these 4 products. Hopefully you got some knowledge out of a couple of experienced sellers breaking down keep it charts, understanding, which products to look into, which products to avoid. Warner, thanks for jumping on. How can people find your content and your channel?
Yeah, for sure. I make, I guess, over 250 free videos on YouTube. You can check those out. Go dive in there and learn how to build a business.
Awesome. Yeah, appreciate you helping out with some of these breakdowns. If you guys enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel. Go subscribe to Warner's channel, and I'll see you in the next video.
Peace.